Everyone has heard of whitewater rafting and beachcombing for seashells, and as well as safaris. But what if we told you there was a whitewater rafting adventure that goes backwards up a river or a beach where you could find 300 million-year-old fossils? What about a caviar safari? Well, we can't wait to share some of these wild adventures with you, and we guarantee you that some of them are so compelling you might have to start Googling flights ASAP. So stay with us because we will bring you all of this and more from Nova Scotia and New Brunswick, Canada.
Wheels up. We're gonna be two hearts running wild. Hello, my name is Julie, alongside my husband of 32 years, and ironically, this is the 32nd episode of Meander Travel. Thank you for listening. We have a different kind of podcast for you today, and we are really excited to share it with you. If you've listened to any of our other content, you know that we are big proponents of experiential travel. So what does that mean exactly? Well, it means that we don't just book a trip and show up and then go see the typical sites. We do a lot of research ahead of time. And we always try to build our trips around, or at least to include, unique local festivals, epic concerts, extraordinary sporting events, or wild adventures.
Julie, we have people ask us all the time, like, okay, I want to go on your trips that you're taking. Like, when can we go with you? Because you're always going to these cool things and seeing these really, wow, how you find out about that festival. We do tons of research.
Yeah.
Right? For example, we just got back from the Winter Olympics, 2026 Winter Olympics, but we have also been to see multiple stages of the Tour de France. That takes a ton of planning.
Mm-hmm.
We have been skydiving and hot air ballooning. We recently swam with sharks in Belize. We've had the privilege of seeing multiple concerts in ancient Roman amphitheaters. Yes, more to come. Observed Bastille Day in France while watching colossal fireworks displays over the castle city of Carcassonne. Also comes with great planning.
Mm-hmm.
We also got to participate in a local festival in Monte Rosso, Italy called Dragut, where the townspeople reenacted a Turkish invasion from 1544, and we watched as pirates sailed into the harbor, came ashore, and set afire a makeshift church, as part of the display, and then they, paraded through the streets, capturing people and taking them hostage, all to end with a dancing festival with all of the captives and their captors, and everybody's in on it. The whole city is in on it, and that one was unique that we fell into. But since then, that's how we do our research. We got to find these things.
Yeah, we have been really lucky to do those things and a lot more. And actually, a lot of those are in previous podcasts. So if any of them sounded intriguing to you, you definitely could find them in another podcast and you can hear more about them. But all of those did not happen by accident. A few of them early on, the Dragut that you just mentioned, that one did actually kind of happen. It was a happenstance. We were kind of in the right place at the right time. But that festival that we took part in is really what inspired us to become much better planners. And it also helped us search and seek out experiential travel opportunities. So some of the activities that we're going to talk about today might have been kind of hard to plan for because they don't show up on common bucket lists for people, and they might not even be mentioned in most guidebooks from this region. But these are the kinds of adventures that will fuel your bonfire stories forever. So let's get started.
Okay, before we jump into our first adventure, we need to give a little bit of a backstory because in early 2020, we booked a trip for later that summer in July that we were so excited about. We're diehard fans of a show called The Curse of Oak Island.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not familiar with the show, it airs on the History Channel. It follows the story of Marty and Rick Lagina. Not Lick.
Easy for you to say.
on their quest to find buried treasure in Nova Scotia, just west of Halifax, on an island called Oak Island. It's it's got an unbelievable history. We're not going to go into too much detail about it, but there has been a search ongoing for hundreds of years to try and find this treasure. And even one of the presidents of the United States was part of one of these crews trying to find this well over 100 years ago. Anyways, people have been digging on this island for hundreds of years, and It goes back to maybe even being the Knights Templars that came over in like the 13th century, 12th and 13th century. So it's pretty fascinating to us. We love it. We watch it all the time. And so what we want to do is we wanted to go there and see it, and we were going to get this tour, but we haven't been able to do it because COVID came. So no getting to go and look at the island and the where the money pit is and all this stuff and the booby trap flood tunnels. We didn't get to do any of that stuff, but it is a really cool show, and that's kind of why we were going to go to Nova Scotia.
Yeah, so what makes this podcast different is that this trip, because it got canceled in 2020, this trip didn't actually happen for us yet. So all the things that we're talking about today, we haven't seen. We haven't been
We
on.
can't give you firsthand
No,
experiences.
but there are a lot of pieces and parts that can make it really great for a trip sometime soon. We already had so much of it in the works. And fun fact, Tony, that Oak Island is once again operating tours
I know.
currently. And the tickets are a heck of a lot easier to come by now. You can basically just go online and book a tour. It was the previous process is you basically had to go online at a certain time and you had to like get tickets like a concert.
You were so lucky if you got them.
Yeah, and we did, and we were so excited, and we had started all this unbelievable planning, and then COVID took it away
Right.
from us. So, yes, so we actually haven't taken this trip.
So it's unusual for us to do a podcast about somewhere we haven't been, but this will give you an idea of some of how we get our research, where we look for things, how we do it, what kind of things we're looking for, because we scour national parks websites, travel blogs, use apps like TikTok, Pinterest, Facebook groups for recommendations and ideas, and then we go and then we take that for trip planning, and then we kind of put them into maps, and we look at then we start looking at hotels and locations, but for the most part we look for activities first, and then that kind of defines our route. So for this one, we focused on Nova Scotia and New Brunswick with a concentration around the Bay of Fundy. Now, the Bay of Fundy is a big part of this. So
Bay of Fundy?
Yeah, Bay of Fundy.
Get it? So fun. And it is actually really fun. There's a lot of really cool things we're going to talk about. So why don't you explain for our listeners who may not be familiar with these particular geographical locations in Canada, by the way, which I don't think we actually mentioned yet, but it's kind of important to see this in your head. Why don't you kind of describe what this area looks like so they can envision it while they're driving or whatever else they're doing?
Okay, so I always like to describe things funny. I think of Nova Scotia, when you look at it on a map, I see it as this untailed alligator about ready to eat Newfoundland. Now, if you look at a map, you'll see what I'm saying. Newfoundland's up to the northeast. It's this long bar of a piece of land that kind of sticks out against the Atlantic Ocean. But then there's this big bay, the Bay of Fundy, which separates that from New Brunswick. And this bay is exciting because it has the biggest tidal variation in the world. So the combination of a irregular coastline and its shallow bays with mudflats, which is really shallow, at the head of the bay causes the water level to rise and fall up to 16 meters or 53 feet. That's twice a day. So the biggest tidal range in the world. The bay is both narrow and shallow, but it's also long. So 160 billion tons of water is going in and out, and it's forced into a tight little bay, and that leads to the massive vertical expansion at the end of the bay. So it takes close to 12 to 13 hours for the water to flow in and flow out of the bay and back and forth, which is approximately the same amount of time as a 12-hour lunar tide. So the synchronization means that incoming tide arrives just as the previous tide is finishing, causing the water to build up dramatically. So it goes up very fast and goes down really fast. And nowhere in the world is it this dramatic. So this whole bay has got tons of activities and things that happen, that there's now tours, activities, parks built around it. And that's why all of our things that we're focusing on today are, we're going to go see the Bay of Fundy and all the cool things around it.
Yeah, and we explore kind of here and there from that point, but that is kind of a focus. So, all right, so we had tickets to Oak Island. So when we had those, then we started looking like, okay, what else could we do near there? And I say that relatively because we expanded the search quite a bit from just Oak Island. But so for you to get started, you're first going to need to decide on your timeline. How much time do you have for this trip and when can you go? And please take note that seasonality matters here more than most locations because a lot of these adventures and like the tourist hotels and the restaurants may not be available or open out of season.
And that's partially because this is northeast of Maine, United States. So, like, you're going up the shoreline. So, this is quite a bit north of most anything in continental United States. So, the prime time is July through September. And surprisingly, June is considered a shoulder season where it's prime for a lot of other places. Kids here are still in school in June, so that's another reason. And the water and weather don't get warmer until July. So, in addition, you will definitely need to rent a car because there's no trains getting to all these little towns and places.
Absolutely. And for clarity, just so you kind of know what to expect, we are going to discuss some of the really fun adventures that you could have in and around this region and less about the actual towns and where to stay and eat. Those are things that are pretty easy for you to look up later on your own as you're doing your planning. And restaurants, for example, they come and go. So we could mention it now and they might be out of business tomorrow. So our goal with this podcast,
which we've done. We've done
that's
before.
true. Yeah, that's true. Our goal is to entertain and entice and surprise you with some really unusual activities. So that's going to be our main focus. And we will jump around, by the way, between these provinces. This is not kind of in a linear format or road trip specific, kind of like did it. This is something that you can kind of pick and choose your adventures from what you're listening to. And then we recommend that you pin them on a map so that you can see where everything is that you liked and start building your own itinerary from there. And that's kind of what Tony does. He's super good about pinning fun things on a map. And then once we've got them all pinned, we go, okay, now how do we make this work? And do some of those pins actually have dates attached to them?
Right, like festivals and activities.
Right.
And in doing that also, if you go about it like we're talking about and just finding the cool things you want to go do in these festivals and parks and different things that have activities that are dated, you put them on a map, and then all of a sudden you realize, okay, now we're going to start to take a path and see, all right, if I do this and this and this day, well, then we should probably stay in this town or nearby there. And that's when you start to realize what towns you got to look at or, where you want to stay. And then you start looking at restaurants. But also you might realize that, hey, we've got 10 of these activities that we want to go do. We might only get to 6 or 7 because 3 of them are not in the path of how we would go about taking this trip.
Yep.
So some things fall by the wayside and other ones become the focus of our path. So,
Right.
All right, our first adventure we're going to talk about is one I mentioned in the intro, Tidal Bore Rafting. This is something that you can do in multiple places around the world, but one of the most notable is in Nova Scotia at a place called Truro. It's on the Bay of Fundy, of course, as all things pretty much are on this. But this is at the very end of the bay. Now, this is where the tide is super intense. Tidal bore rafting is so unique because you go whitewater rafting upstream on the
Shabunakady.
Shabunakady. That Nakati. Anyways,
No,
the
it's
river.
Acadia, like Acadia.
No,
Yeah.
Shubenacadie.
But everything else in
It's
that region is
Shubenacadie.
Acadie.
I'm just telling you, it's
Acadia.
Shubenacadie.
Mm,
Well, everybody,
we can agree to
pick a
disagree.
side, write a note, and tell us who's right. Somebody up there probably
Me,
knows it better
me,
than we do.
Me.
No, Shubenacadie.
Mm-mm.
Anyways, the river from the ocean is right at the very end of the bay. The river actually reverses direction because of the heavy waves that are formed from the ocean tide, and all of that water pushes into where it collides with the flowing river coming towards the bay. It becomes like this turbulent roller coaster of rapids effect, and you would sit in a Zodiac raft, one of the rafts that they have in the group for the tour, and it probably about 3 to 10 foot waves going the opposite direction up the river. It looks like a blast.
Yeah, so the best time of the year to do this would be in July or August because, again, the temperature is warmer and the tides are higher. Now, if you wanted the biggest waves possible, you would want to plan your trip to coincide with the full moon, which is why you need to get out your calendar.
Who would have thought we're planning trips around where the moon phases are?
Yeah, that's a new one.
But you do.
These could be considered class 4 rapids. But if that makes you a little bit nervous, then you can avoid the full moon, and then it could be very beginner friendly. The tours are typically 2 to 3 hours in length. And then this is the really fun part. They often conclude with some seriously silly mudsliding down the riverbanks.
That sounds fun.
It sounds so fun. If you look at pictures, I'm like, that is wild. But yeah, you can plan on getting very wet and very muddy. But that is half the fun of it all. So there are multiple tour operators that offer these tours and packages, and some of the nearby resorts also package like your stay and play together. So you can do a little research on that area and decide which outfitter fits your needs.
There's also an interpretive center and observation deck where you can watch the action from up above and have really good views of the
Shabuna River.
Nope. Anyways, from the river. And then something else that I would like to really do, there's a wetlands trail that's right by there where you can go for a 1 kilometer walk. It's because you're in Canada, you got to go by kilometer. And then you go up and it does an overlook of the Ducks Unlimited protected marsh habitat, which, got to get to see some of those nor'easter birds.
Imagine the lifers you could see.
Yep.
So when that powerful tide that we've been talking about is out, you can actually walk on the ocean bed near New Brunswick. So now we're skipping up to New Brunswick.
That's just a little bit north and a little bit west.
Yeah, it's a place called Hopewell Rocks Park. And you can see the interesting rust-colored sand that has been released by the waves, I guess. And you can take pictures amongst the interesting tree-covered rocks. They're like these huge rocks. And they're covered with these weird little tree stands. So they look like tall flower pots. It's a really unusual looking natural feature. I highly encourage you to go look at them online because they're really quirky. And then when the tide comes back in, you can kayak through this area as well when they look more like bushy islands in the water. And millions of seabirds congregate in this area in the summer. So the entire area is a sight to behold, and more birds for you, my love.
And speaking of large congregations of birds, for my fellow birders out there that are listening, a jaw-dropping event occurs every August just across the water from Hopewell Rocks. It's in Dorchester at the Nature Conservancy of Canada's Johnson's Mills Shorebird Reserve in New Brunswick. So it's really close to that park. At that time, in late July to mid-August, over 130,000 semi-palmated sandpipers, which is a shorebird. It's a shorebird.
What
It's
does
it's a little shorebird.
semi-palmated mean?
It means it's only half.
Oh.
They arrive from the Arctic as they're coming down, and they all go to a staging area right here in the bay, and before they all migrate and go down to South America.
Smart.
The peak viewing, like I said, is July to mid-August, and you go usually about 2 hours before and after high tide. That's when they like to go out there to find all of the feeding, and they come here not just to feed but also to show off, because these birds perform what is called a murmuration. It's a mesmerizing display of coordinated flight. So they all go up in the air, and when they fly together in a wavy ribbon-like pattern, which looks really, really cool if you can go online and look at it. And it's supposed to confuse and intimidate predators by showing off their precision-like skills. Like, okay, you don't screw with us. We've got these flight skills that you can't attack.
So they're little birds that look a lot bigger because they fly in this massive...
And there's so many of them that this phenomenon is called the black sun, because if you have a chance to see us, there's so many birds that you can almost block out the sun when they're flying together. They're that tight.
So I think of this like in the fall when you see the blackbirds here in Minnesota migrating. The blackbirds swoop and fly in these like chains. Is it kind of like that?
That's more straightforward. A lot of the way they fly, they kind of like bob up and down a little bit, and as they're going forward. This is more of them like circling and making like ribbon type, like take a ribbon and throw it in the air, like shake it in the air, and you know how the ribbon kind of waves? It will look more like a ribbon. A ribbon?
A ribbon?
A ribbon.
I actually think that'd be really cool to see.
Yeah.
All right. Well, if you would like to get in the air too, instead of the water, also in New Brunswick, you can head to Cape Enrage. That's kind of a cool name. And here they have zip lining, they have challenging obstacle courses, rock climbing, and abseiling. What the heck is abseiling?
Well, I didn't know at first, but it's basically a sport where you descend down a steep cliff or a vertical face with a harness. Sounds so good so far. And a rope to control your speed as you descend. Abseil it's a German word that means to rope down. Surprising. So creative. To give you an idea of what to expect, you would have professional guides with the gear, and they would help you from top to bottom rappel down an approximately 140-foot cliff. with spectacular views of the Bay of Fundy and a historic lighthouse nearby. So I'm in. How about you, Jules?
I don't know. Ropes. Like, that sound like,
Think Tom Cruise coming into the
think
Olympic
Tom
ceremony.
Cruise.
Like
I
just
definitely
he
don't
comes
want to do
down
that.
and he holds on a little clasp and it just slowly repels
I
down.
mean,
But
isn't this basically like rock climbing?
right in reverse. You're going down.
Hmm.
That's rock climbing. This is abseiling.
See, I don't know if I'd like that because when we have been rock climbing or anything like that, I don't mind going up. I can scramble up.
You don't like the
I
coming
don't
back
like the
down.
coming down.
See, and
That's
I've always
part of
just thought of it
scary
as
to me.
rappelling. I didn't know it had an actual term name like this, abseiling or whatever. But I just call it rappelling. But maybe that's the difference.
I don't know. I'd have to think about it. So, if you'd rather keep your feet on solid ground, kind of like me, Cape and Rage also is a fantastic place for fossil hunting. Who knew? Although the best place for that is the UNESCO World Heritage Site of Joggins Fossil Cliffs in Nova Scotia.
Lots of cliffs in these areas, by the way.
Yeah. So Joggins is famous in the geological world for having the most complete record of fossil life from 300 million years ago. This is what Tony mentioned in the intro. So there are 3 ecosystems that still remain today. There's a forested alluvial plain, an estuarine bay, and a floodplain forest. And if you want to see these fossilized forests and even see footprints of early animals that predate the dinosaurs, I don't know, whatever the heck those creatures might be, I don't even know. But you can hire a guide for a walk, or you can horseback ride through there, and you might even be able to participate in an overnight adventure at an active dig. Now, that would be cool. Sign me up.
That sounds good. This is rock hunting on steroids, which we love to do. Not steroids, rock hunting.
Good clarification.
we like to search. We like to search for agates in northern Minnesota on the North Shore, and we like to find sea glass when we're by the ocean. We love collecting it and bringing it home. But you are forewarned: do not attempt to pick up any of the fossils without a permit because they are protected by law, and you would need to obtain a permit from the government ahead of time. And if you did find something, even if you found something you don't have a permit, you're still asked to show it to a park staff or take photos so you can show it to them because it might be a truly significant find.
That'd be neat. You could get your name in the record books or something.
Yeah.
As a side note, if you really enjoy sea glass hunting that you just mentioned, you could head to Campobello Island, New Brunswick. They are famous for having a plethora of sea glass just waiting to be discovered because unfortunately, early on in their history, their coastal area had been used as a dumping ground. So that's not awesome. But this factor, along with the strong tides that we've been talking about, has created a rock tumbler like situation that continues to produce gems of polished glass on their beaches. And they even celebrate this quirky happenstance with a sea glass festival that runs the entire month of September.
And this would be perfect for the crafty art lover, not the person that's going out hiking and rappelling down abseiling.
Not necessarily.
Well,
Maybe you
they
have
could be
multiple
both,
sides to
but
personality.
maybe you just are an artsy fartsy person and this is what you want to do. Then you could go do this and participate in the sea glass workshops and the craft classes where you would create sea glass jewelry or art or decorative night lamp, for example.
Yeah, that'd be neat.
You could go to the Beachcombers Bazaar to purchase special trinkets that are made by other people, keepsakes, gifts made out of sea glass, or try your luck at finding your own, which was what we really love to do. Reportedly, the best search areas are Pollock Cove, Ferry Landing Beach, and Jackson's Wharf. However, if you want to remove the guesswork and opt for a complete experience, you could also get a guided beachcombers and treasure hunting tour, which is available in those locations.
I wonder if they provide like metal detectors. That's not for sea glass, but
Sea glass
maybe
would not show up.
No, I know, but maybe you could like make it
Double
a
whammy?
multifaceted.
Yeah.
Interesting. Well, if you are already a little bit tired thinking about all this fresh air and the fatigue of outdoor adventures, then we will mention one option for lodging, because we said we weren't going to talk about a lot of this, but that you can do inside Fundy National Park. They have the most adorable, like teardrop shaped wooden pods that you can sleep in, and you'll feel like you're living in a forest fairy tale. And these can be found in the Point Wolf campground, and they're just rustic and cozy, and they're fun for couples or small families.
We would stay there for sure.
That'd be
because
awesome.
you might not be able to sleep, however, not for any reasons that you're thinking, but because this is one of the best parts about the park is that it's a dark sky preserve. and the stargazing is astronomically famous.
Oh, good one.
And yes, this park may be more rustic in nature, but there is something you can do nearby that is totally bougie. If your fancy friends will be jealous about, do you like caviar?
Not really, but I
I
can
love
still.
it.
Yeah, I don't know. It's not my thing. It's the texture, it's the flavor, it's all of it. It's sometimes the color, whatever. But I can still get into how interesting this next place is. If you are here in July, you can go to a fishery in Carter's Point and participate in a caviar safari. So I doubt this is something that most people have ever heard of. I certainly had not. So this experience is provided by the Acadian Sturgeon and Caviar Company, and they were a finalist in a Canadian tourism contest a few years back because of just how unique to the world their particular experience is.
This opportunity will set you back a pretty penny, but
Mm-hmm.
it's a full day tour that will provide adventure, education, a world class caviar, and you would start on a speedboat in the St. John River, so it's exciting as well. And you visit the hatchery to see the juvenile sturgeon, and you learn all about this endangered species and what they are doing to sustain and grow it. You'll see sturgeon fishing firsthand and learn about sustainability and the production process and what makes this caviar so unique and special. After seeing everything up close and personal, you then and learning about it, the sturgeon and its caviar, you would be treated to a luxurious 7-course meal prepared by a professional chef and of sturgeon, meat, and caviar tastings with wine pairings.
Hmm.
The reviews are outstanding, so we're totally in on this. And I know that it's not up Julie's alley too much, but many who have tried it claim that it's the best caviar in the world. So
I would have
I'm
to
in.
talk to them and see how I can get a customized tour because I don't know that I want 7 courses of sturgeon and
Sturgeon meat and caviar.
yeah, I don't know, but
I'm
I
sure
would
there's other things too.
I would kind of like to participate, but I don't know if I want all that. But well, okay, one thing is for sure. They are passionate about the sturgeon and educating their guests. And I highly recommend that you do go look at their website, which is acadian-sturgeon.com, because their personal story about how they came to be working with the sturgeon and kind of rescuing them, it's a really incredible story. It's very interesting. Their mission is amazing. So it's inspiring. I encourage you to go look at that. So I may have to change my mind about the caviar. Plus, I did read that it's extremely healthy for you. It has all these vitamins and minerals.
Yes.
So
And
maybe I
salty.
would try it for that reason.
As long as we're talking about bougie dining experiences, we
Mm.
have another one to share that is very unique as well. These are the kind of things that we look for and trying to find, and this is right up our alley.
Yeah.
In Burnt Coat Head Park in Nova Scotia, you can enjoy an underwater dining experience. In quotations, underwater dining experience. No, this is not an underwater bubble or anything like that. Instead, you would be treated to a 3-course gourmet dinner with locally sourced food, wine, and craft beer on the ocean floor, on the bed of the ocean floor, when the tide has receded.
This is actually a 6-hour tour because you not only get dinner, but also lunch, along with guide led, interesting explorational and educational activities throughout the afternoon. Your adventure would start with meeting a local foraging expert who will teach you all about the indigenous, wild, and edible plants throughout the park that you can touch and taste and that might show up in your meal later. You'll be able to explore the area, taking pictures of the red rock cliffs that overlook the sea that you will be dining in later. But before that happens, you will be treated to a seafood feast from the cliffs with an array of fresh Bay of Fundy delights alongside their signature Tidal Bay wine, which is a crisp, dry white with notes of green apple, pear, citrus, and hints of minerality.
I want some of that right now.
Sounds good.
Fun fact, did we mention that the Bay of Fundy is also known as one of the 7 natural wonders of North America?
No, I did not know that.
I didn't either.
Do we know what the other 6 are?
Not a clue.
Huh,
But
we should
maybe
look
we've
that
seen
up.
a couple of them.
We should look that up.
But we should now that we've
We
now that
should.
we've mentioned this, we got to go see all the other 6, right?
Yeah,
After
maybe.
this, maybe we've already seen some.
Maybe.
So after your fantastic feast, you will walk around and walk your lunch off to see more of the park, and eventually head down, a path down the cliffs to the seabed, where you can see fossils and perhaps some tidal pool creatures that have been stuck in the water.
Like
from
crabs or something?
Yeah,
Little
stuck in their
scurrying
little,
creatures?
or maybe even fish, because there's little pools in the rocks where when the water recedes, there's leftover water.
Interesting.
And then when you turn around and look at the shore, you will get a firsthand view of how the powerful water of the ocean and this Bay of Fundy tidal uh, recessions and these massive tides in particular, how they affect the shoreline and contribute to the erosion on the cliffs and on the shorelines. That's why the shoreline is so different all over the place. Not that long ago, where you are standing now on the floor bed, it was covered with a ton of water because it has receded 50 feet out into the bay.
50 feet of water is like a 5-story building.
It's crazy.
That's a lot. Wow. So throughout this tour, the tides will reach their lowest point and slowly rise again. So you'll feel the rhythm and the breath of the ocean in a way that most people never get to do. And you will enjoy this unique moment at a long table facing the ocean, topped with a white linen tablecloth, savoring a 3-course meal, and seated next to new friends from around the world. That's like Tony's favorite thing.
Yep.
So, following this dining experience, you will relax at a campfire on the tidal flats, enjoying your after dinner beverage, reflecting on your incredible day, and then being regaled with legends and stories from the local Mi'kmaq people.
Yeah.
Mi'kmaq.
Mi'kmaq.
Mi'kmaq people.
Yeah. If you want to know more about this culinary and cultural adventure that we're talking about, you can check out their website. It's diningontheoceanfloor.ca, and that .ca is for Canada. It's a Canada site. So diningontheoceanfloor.ca. They only offer a certain amount of them per year in the summertime. So the dates are very hard to come by. So if you're going to want to do this, let's say the summer, you'd want to start booking now, because once they're gone, they're gone. They are, again, quite pricey, but you get the whole day's worth of high quality gourmet food, tours, explanations. It's fun. Really, the opportunity to learn so much about an area is kind of and the people is what we're all about and what we're doing. So this is perfect for what we would want to do as an experiential travel.
It's kind of like a one-stop shop.
For the all Bay of Fundy in one.
Yeah, I mean, you get lunch, dinner, education, adventure. It's interesting. You meet new people. I want to say that it's like $750.
Per person?
Yeah, I think it might be.
Well, I didn't think it was that much money.
Yeah,
all right, maybe we're not doing that.
Yeah.
No.
Maybe it's per couple. I don't. You'll have to look into it. But I honestly think, so we watched a video on it. We watched a couple who actually did this, and I was absolutely enthralled.
Yeah.
And it felt like the most complete day. It felt really long. It felt like they were just doing activity after activity after activity. And one of my personal dreams is to enjoy a meal at one of those long white linen tables where you get served this meal with an amazing view. In my mind's eye, that was always Tuscany, but hey, I could trade it out for the Bay of Fundy ocean floor. I'd be okay with that. But I just think that's a really neat opportunity. And to be with a bunch of other people in that moment, I think that would be really cool. So I should mention that this trip to Nova Scotia and New Brunswick is going to be fairly seafood heavy. So as I kind of mentioned about the caviar, I'm not a big fan of seafood. It's not my favorite. I would struggle with this a little bit more than Tony would. But in that same video that we watched, I'm pretty sure that 3-course dinner also included a local steak. So never fear, meat lovers. I'm with you. I feel you. I'm not sure I could do all that seafood either. But if you are a seafood lover, this is your place. And there is a festival that you really don't want to miss. So it takes place around July 5th through the 13th, somewhere in there. You might have to check from year to year. It probably varies a little bit. In Shediac, New Brunswick. And this place is the self-proclaimed lobster capital of the world. And to prove their point, they have a giant 35-foot lobster statue that welcomes you into town.
They celebrate all things lobster during the festival, including a lobster eating contest, a huge outdoor lobster dinner served on the main street.
That might be like kind of the same thing, a long white table, maybe?
Yeah, but I don't know if you'd want that, though, because you don't like lobster.
Well, no, I wouldn't, yeah.
You'd need tickets for this. I think you would for sure want to get them in advance if you know you're going to
Yeah,
go
that one you probably would.
And they have a music, a carnival, and other live entertainments. And speaking from experience, it is so fun to participate in these festivals that really highlight the area that you're visiting to, and to celebrate what they are known for something that is particularly special to them, especially when it's quirky like this, like just lobsters. Like their whole town is probably just everything lobsters.
Yeah.
Which would be cool.
Like you're not just stumbling upon a farmer's market,
Right.
on the weekend.
Where there's
Like,
a little bit of everything. It's going to be lobster all day, all night.
this is a full on, we all love this, and the whole town comes out for it. Also, if you prefer scallops maybe over lobsters, not to be left out, the town of Digby in Nova
Cool
Scotia.
name, by the way. Just want to go there because it's
Digby. It's kind of
Digby.
fun. Well, they're the self proclaimed scallop capital of the world. And apparently, due to the super cold and nutrient rich waters of the Bay of Fundy, the scallops there are exceptionally large. So, I don't know, quirky. So, they honor this local treasure with a festival held every year around the second week of August, where they have scallop shucking demonstrations and competitions, by the way. You can see how quick you are or how many you could do in such a period of time. They have scallop barbecues and a Scallop Days Queen pageant and parade. And what does a costume look like for a scallop queen?
And not only that, do they have a 35-foot scallop at the edge of town?
I don't know.
Because
They
that would
should.
be hideous. Who would want to see that?
A gelatinous, like chunky thing. I don't know.
All right.
Well, and they do have a lovely market along their waterfront with live music and fireworks at night. So it's kind of a whole thing.
We've talked a lot about the Bay of Fundy and the funky food, fundy tides, and
Funky
extensive
tides.
availability of array of fresh seafood. But if you want to get out on the sea itself and get out on the water, there are some really awesome excursions to take. You, as just mentioned, due to the nutrient-rich waters of the Bay of Fundy, this area is known for being a summer feeding ground for a large variety of whales, including, ready, humpbacks, finbacks, minks,
Minkies?
minks, never heard of them, and right whales, R-I-G-H-T, right whales, which I have never heard of before in my life, but maybe that's because they're an endangered species. Also,
We also live in a landlocked state.
that's true. We're in like
So-
the middle of the continent, so we're as far away from whales as you can get in North America,
Right.
by like one state over. Anyways, there's also something that I definitely want to see, but I don't necessarily want to see them there for the first time. I have never seen a puffin, and I want to go, on a puffin adventure. But the puffin adventure I already know where I'm going. I know when it's going to be, and I don't know when it's going to be, but I know what time of year it's going to be, and it ain't in the Bay of Fundy.
So I was looking at the puffin experience and I almost included it here because they are cute and everything, but it's even further away.
Yeah,
than
it's a
some of
long haul from all those places that we're talking about.
It is. I'm like, you know what? And because I know that you have another place you want to see
Yes.
puffins, I decided we can talk about that one at that point and save it.
Yep.
But you can see puffins here. So if you're interested in that, you can do a little more research. We're not going to go into
If
that.
you're not going to get all over the world to go and see like puffins, for example, like I'm going to make a trip for puffins eventually someday, probably. You know what? And you're in the Bay of Fundy and you want to see puffins as well, you can definitely do it. You're just going to have to take a little bit longer of a drive down to get to where the
It's more of a
cruises are for that.
yeah. So there are multiple tour operators and multiple locations in which to take whale and dolphin, by the way. Dolphin watching excursions, they kind of go hand in hand a little bit. But the most recommended one, the departure location is out of Grand Manan Island. Just
Right
because
by Maine, by the way. So you're at the western corner of New Brunswick. So it's a haul as well.
it is, but the reason why this one is so popular is because it has the highest concentration. It's an area that's just really, really known for great whale sighting. It's on the far western side of the Bay of Fundy, so it's not as convenient, and you will really need to plan accordingly if you do want to do this. Otherwise, you could also do a whale tour from Campobello Island, which we mentioned earlier in regards to the Sea Glass Festival. They actually have really great whale tours out of there as well, and it's much more accessible to you. And then there's another place called St. Andrews by the Sea. And from what I read, most of these tours will guarantee that you will see whales or they will give you your money back.
And just to say, this is a Nova Scotia and New Brunswick trip, right? But we were in Bar Harbor a couple years ago, and Manon Island in that area to go on these tours and the puffin tours, that's closer to Bar Harbor than it is to like Halifax and to the north end of the east end of the Bay of Fundy, because it's a long bay. So if you were like in Maine and you were up at the Bar Harbor and you wanted to go do one of these things, those whale watching tours from there are closer. So that might be something you could do from a Maine trip if you wanted to.
Two things to mention though. Number one, you're always at the mercy of the weather.
Sure.
So you might be there and you might be super excited to go and do this, and it may be absolutely pouring rain, thunderstorming, rough seas, and you're not going to be able to go. That happened to us once when we were in San Diego. We were super excited to do a whale watching tour, and they canceled it that morning because the seas were too rough. And speaking of rough seas, I'm one of those people who gets pretty seasick. And some of the reading that I've done about some of these, I mean, you're out there
Yeah,
on the
I don't know
open
how
ocean.
much you'd fare well on that.
Well, I would have to really think about it. I think a little bit. And you certainly can take your Dramamine, and there's like bracelets you can wear and some patches you can get. And so if you're somebody who really wants to do this, but you are susceptible to seasickness, you may want to check into some of those things, because I definitely think that would come into play in this area.
Well, we've talked about some incredible sea and land adventures, but there are also around the Bay of Fundy, because there's cliffs and there's really cool national parks and state parks or province parks. There are some noteworthy hikes, and for all skill levels. So we love to go hiking. So this is something that we would probably, want to do as well. So let's mention a few. For example, you could take the Skyline Trail in the Cape Breton Highlands for stunning coastal views and sunsets. So go there at the end of the day. You could hike the challenging Walton Glen Gorge to see the Eye of the Needle, or traverse part of the 40-mile Fundy footpath, which connects the Big Salmon River to the Fundy National Park. And that one would be definitely for probably, we'd probably want to do at least one or two of these when we're doing our trip around the bay.
Yeah, something to note though on some of these hikes, you have to be really careful and you have to be a really good planner because of the tides and
Right?
how massive they are. Sometimes you have to cross, and you're not going to be able to cross if the tide is really high. Like you have to be really
Like in
careful
that
about.
park, there's a path that goes over a little
It's
bridge,
possible.
but that
Yeah.
bridge might be underwater if it's the wrong time of the day.
Yeah, so you kind of got to know what you're getting into. Be aware and be smart and look at your trail guides. And if you're not up to all that walking, and maybe we're talking to some older folks, the Cabot Trail on Cape Breton Island, Nova Scotia, was declared by USA Today as the best scenic drive in all of Canada. So the Cabot Trail
Take
is a
that, British Columbia.
yeah, haha. So the Cabot Trail is a 185-mile loop. It would take about 4 to 5 hours if you were going to just drive it kind of straight, depending on how many times you stop. But ideally, you could take a couple days to enjoy this drive, as you would want to stop at the scenic overlooks, maybe do a few short hikes, enjoy some of the lovely coastal villages that you're going to pass along the way. And these seaside towns are really quaint. And in the summertime, they're open for business, and they probably have candy shops or ice cream shops and fun restaurants and local like bed and breakfasts. Super fun.
There's a ton of travel blogs and guidebooks that are out there that can recommend what to see at Cape Breton along the trail, including where to stay, what to eat. A lot of them start with the ultimate Cabot Trail road trip or Cabot Trail itinerary. So you can Google, Pinterest, Tickety Talk, whatever you want, and find those things.
Tickety talk. So another useful tip, not only for these provinces, but for travel in general, you can always contact the tourism board of wherever you're going, and they will send you free of charge tons of information, including travel brochures and maps and hotel and restaurant recommendations and just all kinds of literature. And it's a fantastic way to get local and current information. And a lot of this is going to have, photos on it, so you can really see like what you're going to be getting yourself into and what these places look like. So super helpful. Just you're going to need to do something like that pretty far in advance so that it has time to get to you and that you have time to peruse it before you lose out on a good hotel room or a good flight price or something. But that's a really good tip. Just go into their websites, and it's usually an email or you have to put your information in. They'll send a ton of stuff to you.
Because we talked about mentioning, let's mention flights here. Let's talk a little bit about how to get there. You could fly in and out of Halifax, Nova Scotia, which is probably the biggest town and closest to the Bay of Fundy for most of it. Or you could do a multi-city flight and fly into Fredericton, New Brunswick, which is north of the bay. But then you could rent a car and work your way down and around the Bay of Fundy and fly out of Halifax, or vice versa, depending on what route and where you want to be, depending on the festivals and how much time you have.
Yeah. Or here's an idea. If you are coming from Montreal and you really want an adventure, you could take the luxury sleeper train. And the experience is called The Ocean on Via Rails. So Via is the company, VIA. via rails, but it's the ocean experience on the train. And it runs from Montreal all the way to Halifax, but it does stop at a couple different places in New Brunswick as well. So along the way, you would get to see the amazing coastal views with historic lighthouses. You would pass through some of these quaint seaside towns and the dense forests as well. This is something, again, you would need to book pretty well in advance because they only run a few times a week. So they're going to get more filled up. And you're going to want to make sure that you check into that.
As much as I like that idea, I wouldn't want to do it only because you're coming from Montreal and you're ending in Halifax, and then you're going to rent a car and go back and go along the shorelines of all the things
Well,
you
you
just
could
did.
stop in New Brunswick.
But when you stop on the train, you're still having to go to Halifax, which means you're staying on the train. You're not getting
Well,
out
could you
and doing
couldn't you get off and like rent a car there?
Yeah, but then you're missing out on the rest of that train to Halifax. So maybe you just say, I'm getting off at the spot, but your baggage is checked through to Halifax. You're not going to be able to get it out if it's checked in. You're going to have it in your room with you.
I think you might be able to go just to New Brunswick and then maybe get off there.
Well, if that's the case, then that's good. Then you get your car and you could do all the north side of the Bay of Fundy stuff, work your way towards Halifax.
That could be ideal if you really want to,
Now,
if you're coming from Montreal,
a couple years ago when we were in Bar Harbor and we were in Maine,
Bahaba.
I wanted to do a large part of this Bay of Fundy stuff on the north side and the New Brunswick side from there. We didn't do it because we were going to cross in the border into Canada, and it made for a very long drive road trip at that time, and we'd already been driving up and down all of Maine, and we didn't end up doing it. We went to the northeast corner of Maine, but we did not go into New Brunswick and do any of that. So
you really do need to have time. You don't want to rush. You don't want to be having 10-hour driving days.
Well, that's what we discussed. We said, you know what? We've already had a really great trip. Bar Harbor needs a lot of time, and for the hiking that we were on there, for us to do a little bit of the Bay of Fundy was going to sell it short. Like we were not going to get what we really wanted. It was probably like a week and a half trip in the Bay of Fundy in Nova Scotia and Halifax and all that stuff.
You could easily shoot, I think, 10 days. And there's some amazing towns too.
And we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Halifax itself. Now it's on the East Coast, so we have focused all of these adventures around the Bay just to kind of keep it as a trip together around the Bay of Fundy. But this is a spectacular town that you would want to spend some time in as well. So if you're flying in or flying out, it's situated right on the Atlantic shoreline. So you can take harbor cruises and explore the seaside market or visit Fair Lawn Cemetery, which is where the victims of the Titanic were buried. And as macabre as we actually like visiting cemeteries, which is odd, but we do.
Well, they're historic.
Yeah, and they have a lot of stories to tell.
Yeah, and this is the closest spot to where the Titanic was, where it went down, and so
for major city, yeah.
This is where they brought the survivors and a lot of the obviously people who did not survive, and that's where they are. But so that's all super interesting to me, actually. And in the Maritime Museum of the Atlantic, which is in Halifax, you can also see some of the artifacts from the Titanic itself. They have those there, and then from a lot of other shipwrecks, because obviously this area is known for that. They have a lot of rocks. They have major tides and ocean, and so they've got a lot of really cool artifacts there. But they also have a plethora of other important exhibits showcasing their local history and their culture. But as you just mentioned, if you have a tendency toward the macabre, then you could also do one of our very favorite things to do when we travel, which is to take a ghost tour. And you can actually sign up for the Halifax Ghost Walk. And they claim to be the oldest ghost tour in North America, which I found was very interesting. And they will entertain you with stories of ghosts and pirates and buried treasure.
For that reason alone, we'd have to do it. Like, you got to go to the oldest North American ghost tour.
Yeah.
Right? So this trip, when we do it, it checks off so many of the things that we look for, like new adventures, birding, kayaking, foodie experiences, hiking, road tripping, rock hunting, like gem hunt, like looking for fossils, wildlife spotting, local festivals, history, cultural, ghost tours, complete whirlwind of all the best that Canada has to offer on land and sea, and it's all right around the Bay of Fundy.
Yeah.
And seriously, I don't even know how we haven't done this. We were going to do it. How would this didn't pop up to the top of our list, even a couple of years ago back? But
I don't know how we didn't prioritize this, because as we are revisiting all of these things today, I have such a renewed interest in booking this trip. But alas, our summer is already booked.
Yeah.
So we'll have to think about this maybe now for 2027, which is probably good because as we just illustrated, a lot of these things do need to be looked at in advance and maybe we need to make some reservations at certain things before they're snapped up. So that's okay that we have a little bit of lead time. But do you want to talk about like should we tell people why our summer is already booked and with
I
what?
think we've mentioned a little bit already, but I'm going to be walking the Camino de Santiago this summer, and that takes up a
I
large.
mean, I might be too.
Yeah, you're going to do part of it hopefully at the end with me. We'll see. We're
We'll
going to
see.
talk. We're going to
I
talk.
might do the whole thing.
Yeah.
We'll
Well,
see.
this is one of the things we're going to do a little podcast probably about us prepping the Camino de Santiago and what that looks like from the front end. Never done it before. And on the next podcast, what goes into thinking about doing it, why you do it, how you plan for it.
Mhm.
It's extensive. It's exhausting. And it's probably not as exhausting as the actual Camino de Santiago.
It's probably going to be the most planning we've ever had to do for any kind of
right.
trip.
And this is not a small trip. This is going to be a 45-day kind of, plus or minus 6 or 7 days.
Mm-hmm.
That long of a trip.
That explains why we have no other time this summer to
Right.
plan another trip.
But if you're interested in what it is, it's a pilgrimage from basically all over Europe, but they all go and end in one little town in northwestern Spain. But we're looking at coming from France and walking all the way across the northern part of Spain to the west coast. It's about 500 miles of hiking.
I would walk 500 miles.
All
Yeah,
right.
so we can talk about that maybe next time. But for now, we hope that you've really enjoyed this adventure that we've taken.
We've never taken.
The adventure that we've never taken. But I don't know. I think we did a good job. We have so many fun things that we've researched that I could just really get into. And it doesn't really even matter. Like, there's something for everybody here. You can pick and choose.
We know that this trip will be a good trip of the fun things that we've looked into and researched diligently to try and find some cool things to do. Yeah. And we know that we love aspects of all of them. So whatever happens, even if we miss out on some of them, we're going to hit enough of them that would be an extremely successful trip.
Yeah.
And we'll plan it around festivals and times. And
well, yeah, some of them are really dependent upon exactly when you're going to be there. So like, oh, we're going to miss that festival. Okay, fine. You take that one off your list.
You can't do all the festivals.
You can't do everything all the time, but you can strategize it as best as possible. And all we can say is if you do this trip before we do, please let us know what you think of some of these adventures.
Or if you've been.
The itinerary. Yeah, we would love some feedback because we can certainly add to this or take away depending on what people see and do and what their thoughts are.
If you've been on the Sturgeon Safari, please let us know.
Yeah.
I'm like, please, because I don't think we probably know a soul that has done that, but that'd be kind of fun to hear somebody's point of view if they've seen it.
Yeah.
And speaking of festivals, might have one or two to mention on the Camino de Santiago discussion as well. Because definitely planned it around that as well. So.
That's true. Well,
so
you're going to have to wait for that one.
Wheels up.